Hey everybody, I'm back. Had a nice little short break from streaming for a while because I had some other stuff to deal with this past weekend. But I'm back in a big way with a movie review that came out last week that is doing very well in the box office right now. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Before I uh, get to talking about the plot, please do me a huge favor, smash that like button, follow me in the links in the description below, like my YouTube channel, Patreon, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, that sort of thing. And yeah, I hope everybody had a great weekend. Now, without further ado, it's showtime. So, Beetlejuice. I cannot overstate this or understate it or whatever, but I love the first Beetlejuice film. I hold it near and dear to my heart. Uh, is one of the reasons why Tim Burton is my all-time favorite movie director ever to this day. And one of my dreams is to work on any one of his projects. I don't even care what it is. I just really would like to work with this guy because, like, God, as an actor, that's like a dream come true. Uh, I just love his style, his overall view of the world. Like, I just want to live in it. The atmosphere is just palpable. One of the best. The only world that kind of beats it slightly is the world of like Star Wars, maybe. That's the only one I could think of because man, the gothic look, I just love it. One of the reasons probably why Halloween is like my favorite holiday, and I kid you not, I bet you dollars and donuts that after the success of this film, I'm pretty sure people will be buying like wearing all these type of costumes and everything like that. Not just with Beetlejuice, but like every type of outfit that's coming from this movie. Like I kid you not. Uh, Especially for like next, comic book conventions in the following year. Uh, but anyway, so obviously, directed by Tim Burton. Screenplay, Alfred Goff, Miles Millar. Uh, Also, who done the story along with Seth Graham-Smith. Uh, Starring Michael Keaton once again as the character Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder returning as Lydia Dietz. Catherine O'Hara as Delia Dietz. Jenna Ortega as Astrid Dietz, the daughter of Lydia. Justin Theroux as Rory, Lydia's current boyfriend. Monica Bellucci as Dolores, one of the bad guys in this. Dolores is Beetlejuice's ex-wife, which, if you recall, at the third act in the wedding sequence of the first Beetlejuice film, as Beetlejuice is about to give Lydia a ring is still attached to a finger, and he's like, "She meant nothing to me." I think that is like a good connection to this. Uh, uh, so uh, uh, the movie begins where we're 36 years later, and Lydia, given her ability to see spirits, is has like a she's like a ghost hunter slash talk show host, where she visits supernatural locations that rumored to be haunted, and she films it. And I kind of like that idea because like the only other thing I can see Leah doing is the whole like fortune teller gimmick, which is roughly the same thing, but I think that has lost its popularity a bit. Where like kind of like Whoopi Goldberg's character in the movie Ghost, where she you know, makes money speaking with or communing with the spirits, of the dead for people. Now it's pretty much like a ghost hunter thing, which is like a more popular thing. Because me personally, I actually do believe in the supernatural because it's too much stuff out there in the world, especially after you know so many years of all this paranormal activity and possible alien activity. All this stuff is too like not concrete, but concrete enough where it's like you can't ignore it. I do believe there's like vampires in the world. Like there probably been like some form of a werewolf that you know because it's all rooted in something. Especially different cultures have different depictions of these things, like mermaids from different cultures that long ago never even interacted with each other come up with the exact same thing. It's like it's got to be rooted in something, and especially with these ghost hunters going to these supernatural things prove there is some form of an afterlife. You don't have to believe it yourself, but for me, I actually like, okay, this is a legit thing. Okay, you can't. It's like it's not like the way it was. Like I think when you get, prior to maybe the '90s, there's a lot more skepticism amongst people. But after the '90s, that's where the switch I think starting to happen, where a lot more people, I guess, who were kids watching this, grew up like holding on to that, where it's like, hey, this is kind of like, yeah, I'm not gonna scoff at this. I'm not gonna scoff at a person who might be psychic. I mean, like, there are like psychics out in the world. There's also people who probably scam artists pretend to be psychics, but I'm not gonna scoff at the idea that there will be, at least a minute of psychics in the world. So yeah, Lydia is one of these people who is pretty much like using her gifts to help people, but her boyfriend Rory, who is like some type of like showrunner or something like that, is popularizing her, and she's becoming like a big deal. But unfortunately, she has a daughter Astrid who, it's kind of ironic. It's kind of like a shift because, as you remember, the Lydia back in the day, during the 80s and 90s, she would have been labeled an outcast because she would have been into like the goth stuff and everything like that. And among like the yuppie crowd or, just everyday people would look at goths and emos as like kind of like the weirdos, and it's like, something wrong with them, or whatever. After a while, people just gotten used to, because like I would love to have a kid that might be goth, especially if I have a daughter that is goth. Like, yeah, sure, I I had a thing for goth girls. It's because of Tim Burton, damn it, because he got me into like like girls that look like that, and it's like it's like an attraction trigger for me, just immediately. Especially if it was like a black girl, goth girl. It's like, oh God, it's just like Jesus. It's because of him I got a thing for those type of women. So like I would fully embrace a girl, a daughter who's like into that kind of stuff. But now it's kind of like a flip, where Astrid is like a real world normie. And amongst her family who's been through some stuff that she is either doesn't believe or woefully unaware that, like, I don't believe this kind of stuff. There's real world. And she's like, of course, a environmentalist, save the rainforest type of woman. And I get it, but at a certain point, this is kind of a cliche that I'm starting to see a lot in films like this, with like the old cast are grown up and they got some new batch of kids, and kind of like with like, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man's daughter is like the whole environmentalist, and it's like real world problems. We gotta help the poor and all this other stuff. Is I get it. There's real world problems, living problems that we gotta tackle. But can we just have like a kid that isn't into that kind of stuff that you introduce? Because it seems like a crutch. You need the kid to be into something that the parents are not, and it's always seemed like a quick, easy fix to get them into saving the rainforest kind of hippie mentality. And it's like you couldn't just stretch that creative muscle just a little bit to give her any other interests that will achieve the same thing. I don't know, make her a bookworm. Like, it's like, make her a bit of. Matter of fact, that'd be kind of cool. Astrid, because her late father, was into like the environmentalists and took her on these like little trips and stuff. Maybe she got into archaeology. And she's more into history and adventurous things, and not into like paranormal stuff. But there could be tangentially tied in, and you could have done something with that. That'd have been like an interesting twist. Like, oh, Lydia was more into like this, supernatural ghost hunting thing, but her daughter is more into history and archaeology, and digging up artifacts and things of that nature, of people who actually existed, and things of that nature. It just, it's like you go to this whole same trope with young kids, and it's like, come on, not every one of them are into that kind of crap. But that's just my thought. And I do love Astrid in this. I was afraid, because people who worked on this also worked on the Wednesday show, which I do like. And Jenna Ortega is an amazing actress and an amazing person, which I want to make a note because I might forget if I don't talk about this now. Now, behind the scenes, there was a few days ago, there was an interview when because I might as well talk about it here, because don't know if I'll be able to, because I think I kind of missed a boat on that because it happened while I was like taking a break. That she was being interviewed along with Catherine O'Hara, who plays Lydia's mom, who was asked about like, would we see you as like a female Edward Scissorhands or something like that, and she flat out just said it, and she's getting so much praise, and I kudos to her, because also Winona Ryder not too long ago before this made a mention how young actors these days are not interested or taking the craft of an actor seriously, or have the same love for film and film history as they should. And I happen to agree. And Jenna Ortega, proved there is some slight hope in the world with up-and-coming actors, because like I love film. That's why I became like an actor myself. Like, I love the craft. I love the intricacies about it. I love film history. I watched a fair amount of film, going all the way back to like the old monster movies, like with old Count Dracula and the Wolfman kind of thing. Like I watched a fair amount of stuff over the years, and as I got older, I loved like the whole craft of the actor, and like what it, the finer details of like expression, emotion, behind a particular line to sell it really. And even like animation in films, I really dig and find fascinating. It's like you gotta appreciate this stuff. Maybe not all of it, but just the foundation of it, it goes a long way. And Jenna Ortega points out to the interviewer that, like, no, we don't need a female twist on something that belongs to a dude previously. It doesn't work that way. We need to make our own thing and popularize that. We used to know this. Like, can you imagine, like, how ludicrous it would sound if we take something like Laura Croft and do like a male take on it, which we already technically did with Indiana freaking Jones. But no, actually take Laura Croft, the background of Laura Croft, and put like a male spin on it and make it like Lewis Croft. How stupid did that sound? It's just like there's some things that are catered to guys, and girls can also be fascinated by, but there's some things that belong to women that's for girls that some guys can follow if they so choose to. I like Sailor Moon. That's typically a girl's thing, but like I dig it, and there's a fair amount of dudes that dig it. There's some things that belong to some people, but it doesn't mean that it excludes everybody else. But it's just that there's certain things that are sacred, and that's the point she's trying to get by, is that there's she doesn't want to be there shouldn't be any Janie Bond. There's James Bond. Make women should have their own thing and be creative enough to make up something. It might not be successful, but you can never say that you're aping off on a different property. You made something your own. Yeah, this is what I thought is an incredible take she had. It just make her so much more likable. It's one of those like Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder is like one of those people that is just like so likable and down to earth of an individual, and respects the art she's in. And unlike I hate to throw shade, but she's like on the lips of people right now, Amanda Stenberg, who's like activist heavy and like accuse people of being bigots and everything like that because he made crap. She doesn't respect. She's one of those people that I'm pretty sure Winona Ryder is like, not her specifically, but she's one of the kind of up and coming actors that Winona Ryder is kind of like poo-pooing on, because like she doesn't respect the craft of what you're adding to. Like, you're part of this thing that George Lucas created. And he had a specific fan base that he started out from that expanded over the years, where everybody can appreciate. And you're adding to the puzzle piece, you're adding to the layer of the foundation, and you're pretty much like crapping on everybody who's our Star Wars fans and not activists. And there's a particular respect that comes from what came before, that somebody like Jenna Ortega is respecting, and somebody like Amanda Stenberg is not respecting. I mean, like, I'm off on a tangent, but I just want to talk about the whole Jenna Ortega right here and now, because like she is amazing. I love her as a person, and not only as an actress. Now back to the film. What I was worried about when this movie was first announced is that, oh my God, like, given how well she done in the Wednesday show, I was afraid she was going to get typecast, because especially in the first trailer where we saw her, chewing out those sorority girls in her little private school thing. And it's like that, it's just her vocal pitch and the way she's, the cadence, and it's like all reminiscent of, like, that's just something that Wednesday would probably say. Now, given the fact who her mother is, I'm not too surprised, but it's just like, I was worried, like, oh my God, you just gonna just do Wednesday again. But no, I was surprisingly wrong. You know, she has her Wednesday moments, like that particular scene, but she is more, expression and more human, for lack of a better word, than like what we see from Wednesday. Wednesday is super stoic and rarely reacts to stuff. While here, Astrid, she has like a very few stoic moments or just very melancholy, but she gets emotional. And it's like, okay, good. You're doing something slightly different, so that way you're not doing the same old Wednesday shtick. Because I don't want Jenna Ortega being typecast and everything and just doing like a Wednesday motif. Because that's definitely not how she was in the last Scream film, which I did review up on my channel. I'm pretty sure I did review that. I can't recall. Which also she did an impressive job in that. And she's becoming one of those it girls that's like synonymous with like, horror themed type of films. And not like slashers like Scream, but just like the whole goth horror Halloween aesthetic. She's becoming one of those people that's like, especially females, being famed for those type of film or TV. Excuse me. So I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely like that girl. So she doesn't believe in all the same stuff that her mother believes in. So she is now the outcast of today. But Lydia is now all of a sudden randomly getting plagued by visions of Beetlejuice showing up, surprising ways. And it's kind of freaking her out, which turns out that Beetlejuice from beyond is trying to, it's still, after all these years, fixated on this woman and is trying to reach out to her in little ways. He can't do it, 100%, but just little ways that he can. It's also because she's, got such a tie with, is so tied in with the supernatural. She, she's too easy receptive for that. But she gets a call from her mom that Charles, her father, passed away. And the guy who played the father in the first Beetlejuice film, behind the scenes, he has become, at a certain point, an offender. Let's put it that way. He has become an offender. You can look it up yourself. Like, I'm not sure at what time. I'm pretty sure it was some point in the early 2000s or something like that, where he got busted for doing something very, very naughty. And so just haven't been seen again. And so I'm not sure if it was Tim Burton's decision. I think it was other people's behind the scenes decision, where they like, not only did they couldn't just leave it the fact that they had to kill the guy to set up this plot, but they could not have him on set given the egregiousness of what he has done. Because he's not in prison, but he's definitely like, can't work in this business anymore. It's probably even like worse than the whole Weinstein situation, in all honesty. I'm pretty sure, like, if social media was around back then, the way it is now, I'm pretty sure he would have been like on the same level as Weinstein, but he managed to slip through just, by the grace of God. And just like, I'm not sure he did any time, but he definitely like, yeah, he's not working at all. But they had to like, went into the plane crash, but survived, but then immediately got eaten by a shark. So we see him every once in a while in the afterlife, with a, as like, like from the shoulder length is, top half is, completely eaten. And I love the whole uniqueness, like in the first film, where we get to see visually how everyone would have died. And like we see like a guy, with a snake wrapped around him, like a anaconda or something like that, and he got squeezed to death. Don't know why the snake is still there. Did the snake die along with him somehow? I'm not sure. This guy who's in like a hazmat suit died of radiation. His face is melting and stuff like that. So it's so unique to Tim Burton's style. It's like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Like everybody, we get to see how each one of them died in life, and it's very unique. But there's also a thing called the Soul Train, and we get to see people, dressed in 70s gear dancing near the train tracks as the Soul Train takes souls to the great beyond. I'm not sure that Pacific train takes them to heaven, because we see somebody who we'll talk about soon get sent to hell. So I guess there's a different way for certain very malicious souls where they end up going to hell in a particular way, and the Soul Train takes people to heaven. Depending on, because the afterlife in the Beetlejuice world is very bureaucratic, red tape kind of stuff. So you get a number, you go and see like where you get your picture taken, and you know where you gotta go, things of that nature. So unlike in the first film, where there's no, even though there's like the words heaven and hell was used, but was never shown like how people get there. Here, Tim Burton, cool, very cool of him actually address that kind of thing now, where it's like, okay, like these people just wander around the afterlife. They're like, where aren't they supposed to go to heaven, or some supposed to go to hell? Like he thankfully kind of addressed that kind of thing. Personally, I think that's kind of cool that he's kind of addressing, like, yeah, they aren't just wandering souls all over the world. That there is like a place they have to go eventually. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we also figure out that thanks to a surprising Danny DeVito cameo of a dead janitor who accidentally reanimates a disembodied corpse of Dolores, who stapled herself together, kind of like Bride of Frankenstein kind of thing going on, which looks very dope. Like honestly, I can definitely see this like a new Halloween costume immediately next month. I'm definitely calling it. And she has the ability to just suck the soul from spirits, essentially. And she's kind of like almost on a degree of a horror movie slasher in a way, where she just like pops up in place and just like looking for Beetlejuice. We also get the introduction of a new character played by Willem Dafoe as this dead actor who played this detective, and he died because of a faulty special effects explosion. You see, like most of his face is kind of like burnt off. Uh, so now he's pretty much like uh, uh, is like the local police, and he even got like cops that look like something from Reno 911 working for him. So he gets a hold of Beetlejuice, who, for some reason, because in the first film, he his main job was a bioexorcist, who's kind of like a reverse of an exorcist who, uh, yeah, removes ghosts from people's houses. He removes people from ghosts, kind of situation. So now, it's never clear what he actually is doing. Now he's like working in like an office among other people who he's called Bobs, who is like a play on the guy he sat next to at the end of the first film, who is just like was like a hunter who seemingly accidentally shot his own head off or something. So now, instead of that, it's like a gimmick, and it's never clear like all these people shot their own heads off or something. I mean, it's never fully explained. That part is like so confusing. It's just like that character was like so unique that now it's just kind of like copy paste, and now he's got like a little workforce he's running, and you call them all Bob because Beetlejuice is so self-absorbed and because all by himself. He's kind of like the Deadpool before Deadpool, even though Deadpool came out like what, not in the 60s. So it was like, when did Deadpool first appeared? Yeah, it was definitely like in the 80s or early 90s. So yeah, Beetlejuice would have been like the Deadpool before Deadpool, honestly. So of course the guy's crass and a pervert and everything like that. He's pretty much like, as Lydia would have described, is a trickster demon. And he's not malicious. He's like chaotic neutral kind of thing. You can utilize him to do something good, here and there. And they completely ignoring the fact that there was like a Beetlejuice cartoon, which, by the way, as a kid and to this day, it's so confusing as to why. Well, it's not confusing. We know why. But in the cartoon, Beetlejuice and Lydia were like best friends, and they go on adventures together here and there. But it's like, if you watch the movie and then watch the cartoon, and you're looking at it, it's like it's weird for somebody who's trying to marry a teenager, palling around with them, going on adventures. It seems very weird, and it wouldn't make any sense. How it all connects to the first film, I guess it's not connected. It's its own kind of like different alternate pathway or something. I'm not sure. That part is, to this day, is so weird and like out of the blue kind of thing to this day, and it's like makes zero sense. I guess it's not meant to make sense. It's supposed to be just one of those type of cartoons that went off the ground because the movie was so popular, and they do their own little take. So what was one of the first characters' cop name? Wolf Jackson. That's his character's name. Wolf Jackson is telling Beetlejuice that this woman is seemingly after you, because she's literally like, marking walls with Beetlejuice's name. And of course, Beetlejuice is not like, he's pretending like he doesn't know her, but clearly he does. And we get like a backstory. It's not the first for me, honestly, because I was so into this movie that at some point, I'm pretty sure, matter of fact, I think I didn't really look this up until maybe around somewhere between my latter years in high school and my early years in college. I think it was around that time I actually, looked up like the backstory of Beetlejuice, because it's like, what was he like in life? Because the only thing like I figured out was the fact that he was alive during when the Black Plague happened. So it would have been like like uh uh the bubonic plague occurring in Europe from 1346 to 1353. So Beetlejuice would have been in a dope somewhere between that time, like, probably in like 40s or something like that. Around this point in time, that's what he would have been around. Here we get a little bit more to it, which I thought was kind of fun. Some people don't want like lore on certain characters. I understand, because that's how I felt about the whole the Joker movie that came out. It's like he's one of those characters, he doesn't need a backstory. So I understand where some people are coming from with this. Here, like, it's slightly different in my opinion, because Joker has such a longer history and has been seen a lot more in many iterations than Beetlejuice has. Uh, so you can play around with Joker a lot more than you could with Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is kind of hyper specific. Here, I think it's nice to finally get a little bit more of his backstory, where he, and it's told in a cool like European old timey black and white kind of aesthetic, like the Wolfman type of thing, where he was a grave robber during the Black Plague, and she was kind of like a witch that's looking for. She's part of this, witch cult that was looking for immortality, and these two end up. And he was a grave robber. He met her there, and they kind of fell for each other. And it's cool to see Beetlejuice actually in a human format. It's kind of dope. And by the way, Michael Keaton is playing this. Everybody's doing 100% on this. There's nobody slipping in terms of performance in this film. I honestly gotta say, I just want to put that out there. Nobody's slipping at all. Everybody's on their top of their game here. So him and Dolores ends up going through this, faux wedding, where it's like they bite off head off chickens and things of that nature. Like, even in life, Beetlejuice, who I doubt that was his actual name in life, but he didn't get too far into the weeds with that. We're just gonna keep with the name. And so he had no scruples even in life. He was a grave robber, for God's sake. So of course, he was down to clown for anything. But it turns out, Dolores, decides to like, like, it's part of the ritual for her to gain, immortality. She, uh, go through the whole thing with like, starting a relationship with Beetlejuice, then getting married, and then consummating everything. And she got him to drink poison, who thought it was wine. And so Beetlejuice, not too happy with being tricked himself, and being murdered. So before he died, he grabbed an axe and killed her. And that's how she ended up dying, because she's disembodied. He chopped her body up. So Uh, so now she's back looking for her husband, and it's never made clear if she's seeking to, because it seems like on the surface like she just wants to be with her husband again for her life. That's what, it was supposed to death do us part, but she's not honoring that clearly. But she's just like that. She was that into this guy that like she's like still wants him. But because at first I'm thinking like, oh, she's probably seeking revenge for what he did. But her. This is one of the issues that I think people have problem with this film, and I tend to agree, because maybe it's because Tim Burton thinks that it's probably not going to be a third film. He is probably it took so long just to get this film. Lord knows how long it will take before there might be a third film. Lord knows when it'll be like a third film, if there is any possible green light. Even if there was, what the title is going to be. Because this one's getting, is becoming highly successful over just this weekend alone. It's already had like a budget of 100 million, and is raking currently right now in the box office 147.1 million. So it's doing very well. So he's kind of like putting his, a lot into this, and there's a lot of setup with a fair amount of stuff, and only maybe like some spots here and there that seem so quickly resolved or not resolved at all. The whole Dolores thing, personally, seems rushed. Doesn't seem to really blossom into anything where it's like, okay, it seems like it could have been its own film on its own kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of thrown in here. Some with payoff, others do not, and that's my biggest criticism of this film. A lot of rough stuff, and I just personally think it's because I don't know if Tim Burton believes, if at all, if there's going to be a third film, or if he even wants to make a third film. And right now, I'm pretty sure Michael Keaton's in his, it's like he's 70 years old, I think. It's like surprising that we even got him to come back as Batman. Even more surprising, we got him back as Beetlejuice. Both times he's done exceptionally well. Like, he haven't missed a beat at all. But you get him to come back a third time, and what the third movie would be, what the third movie will be about at all, because you pretty much like, wasted, at least 3 or 4 plots you could have utilized into this into the second film. It's the same problem with the whole Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. It's just like, you could have done a lot of stuff with so many different pathways, but you kind of like threw a lot into one movie and left the third one with, okay, what we gonna do now kind of thing. The setup is kind of like fell through the cracks. Anyway, so back in the living, Lydia and I keep want to call Catherine O'Hara, Delia. Lydia and Delia managed to pick up Astrid because her and her mother is estranged. And I love Catherine O'Hara, and she's always funny. She's like, man, as a kid, I never appreciated Catherine O'Hara like I probably should have, because I always enjoyed her in the Home Alone films, and I did enjoy her in the first Beetlejuice film. And there's some stuff she's been in here and there beyond those, but I never really appreciated her comedic timing like I probably should have, because she is very funny. And the fact that she just, because her and Astrid is so estranged. She just got out of the car and just starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Just same old Delia. It's like, because the way she kind of just snaps in a hilarious way, uh, uh, like in the first film, she just does that again, and is embarrassing her granddaughter in front of like the entire freaking campus. It's so freaking funny. Um, and so they end up going to the funeral, and of course the boyfriend's there, which neither the grandmother or the granddaughter likes at all. And of course he turns out to be an a-hole, but it's on this like fake, as Astrid kind of immediately reads him, whereas like, this whole fake, you know hippy dippy kind of like new age attitude thing is all a front. Obviously we'll get to that later, but uh uh they end up having like the wake at the old Delia house, which is kind of like covered in a shroud. And of course Astrid, why she's estranged with her mother, because the father was a, kind of like a environmentalist, so he goes on along on these trips, and one day he disappeared, was body never found. Turns out he was dead, and Astrid, given the fact that who her mom is, and people making fun of her because of who her mom is, she feels like ostracized because of it, and the fact that, why don't you speak with dad or whatever? Because like it's never fully explained why. Because we do find her dad in the afterlife, working in like that bureaucratic system, and for some reason Lydia, maybe it's because some kind of self-doubt or the static she has with her daughter, it's kind of like, it's kind of like the whole situation with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It's kind of like the whole blockage situation where he's lost access to his powers because of some self-doubt or some kind of thing. Maybe that's what's going on with Lydia, where she just cannot like bring herself to do that because that makes it real, maybe, and she wants to avoid that at all costs. So she kind of like avoids trying to do it. Uh, and of course we get the whole Deo song, which is played at the funeral, and I still like it. Some people don't think it's kind of like, I don't want to say hacky, but it's just like playing in like a melancholy tone over a funeral. And it's like, I guess some people think like you're playing the exact song that you was terrorized under by the Maitlands. Which, by the way, you wonder what happened with like the Maitland family, which some people find missing in this, where they were used to ground the movie in the first film, where they get just like a not hand wavy, but just like a one sentence mention where they found a loophole in the whole handbook, the recently deceased handbook, and they managed to finally just move on to the afterlife, which it would have been nice to get some kind of thing, but maybe it's because while beginning filming, Alec Baldwin was going through the whole mess with the whole Rust film that he was working on, where one of the people behind the scenes accidentally got shot because of some faulty situation with one of the guns, and he was under fire with that. But there's no reason why Gina Davis couldn't have any kind of cameos or something, because I don't know, like the Maitlands was such a big part. Excuse me. was such a big part of the first film. It does seem like, yeah, that little, it's not, it doesn't ruin the whole film, but it's just nice to have it there. It's like, because they set everything up. Because you need a little something from the Maitlands. It's nice, just to see them. Anyway, so um, then Roy just out of the blue decides to like propose to Lydia, and she reluctantly agrees, which Astrid is just annoyed with, and she ends up taking some random bike. Like, you just stole somebody's random bike and just rode off with it. It's like some kid's looking for their bike now because of her. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, she's just riding off, not paying attention. Like, I saw the bridge where the Maitlands died. Obviously, they fixed that since then. But I'm thinking like, oh my God, she's riding this bike kind of recklessly, and I'm worried like, oh, she's gonna die. But no, she ended up crashing and bumping into this treehouse where she meets this guy named Jeremy, and these two start to like bond and everything like that. And she tells how like her mom's boyfriend proposed to her and they want to get married. He wants to get married quickly on Halloween, which already should be very suspect. Nobody proposing is one thing, but choosing the date so quickly, hyper specific, should have been a red flag immediately. And personally, maybe it's just me, and I asked my friends, this is weird, but they said no. Because if I get married, or like whenever I get married, I want to get married on Halloween. I don't know why. I just like, maybe because I love the holiday so much. It's like, yeah, I want to get married on Halloween. Why the hell not? And it makes it easier to remember. If you get married on like, I don't know, August 21st, it's not like a special, of course it's a special day, but it's like after some time goes by, you just kind of like crazily, forget. Oh God, neighbors. Um. I lost my train of thought, but it's like the whole getting married on Halloween is kind of rushed, and that should have been a red flag. But Jeremy, is that boy's name Jeremy? Yeah, played by Arthur Conti, who admires Lydia, but he says like, well, if it's too much for you, you can come hang out in my house and we can just pass out treats. And she visits inside the house, and like he says like like the mom and dad, like the mom just bakes and dad just kind of like sits and watches Wheel of Fortune and things of that nature. So he has all these things in his room with like 90s records and all his other stuff. And she decides like, I just want to hang out with him. And I like this dialogue between Delia and Lydia, because oh well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. When Astrid finds the upstairs attic where the Maitland's little model neighborhood thing that they have in their room, she finds the box where her father kept a lot of old pictures and stuff like that. And for a moment, her and Lydia bond, But then Lydia notices Astrid found an ad that was on the ground randomly of the Beetlegeist ad. And of course, Lydia probably, obviously, no doubt, immediately gets triggered. It's like PTSD. I'm like, who wouldn't, honestly, after what she went through as a teenager? And she just immediately like, do not ever come up here. Do not say that name. Do not, trust me. There are things you don't know. Of course, you could just tell her, but given the fact that it was perfectly set up by Tim Burton that Asher doesn't believe any of this stuff that her mom is into, but it's just like, do not say this name. Do not come up here at all. It's off limits. And of course, it's kind of like sets off Astrid because being a teenager, she's like, I don't get it. She's just kind of like a wacko, blah, blah, blah. So Lydia literally had to seal off this doorway. And it's like, why didn't you do that from the jump when you first got here? It's like, this place should just been like bolted shut by a metal door. But then, Delia and Lydia had this kind of heart to heart where it's like, Delia points out that, Lydia didn't, do nothing too different when she was a teenager to her. And now it's just her turn now, where the daughter is kind of like rebelling against you. And Lydia's like, I didn't hate you. It's just like, and Delia's like, yeah, you did. And they made a point to point out about Lydia's real mom, which is, she's obviously still alive and has never been seen. You would think in the first film, Leah's mom must have passed and the dad just got remarried. But no, it's like you never addressed the fact that where's her real mom then? Like, she didn't show up to the funeral of her former husband. It's kind of weird. It's like, I don't know. It's like, wow, you just blatantly threw it out there. Like, oh yes, he's still alive. Like, wait, what? The mom's still alive? Like, why is she at the freaking funeral? It's weird. Anyway, this heart to heart, and Delia have to point out to Astrid, Lydia, it's like, where's that little goth girl that, had this edge to her? Like, what happened to her? And seeing her dynamic with that boyfriend of hers, it's like, I can't help but agree. It's like, man, the old Lydia would not put up with this kind of crap. And it's like, you gotten soft over the years, Lydia, and it's kind of like a shame. It's kind of like looking at Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones. It's like, there's something missing from this, and it's kind of like, damn, what happened to you? It's like, you would never would have put up with this kind of crap before. You would have called out this guy's BS from the jump. You wouldn't have even been bothered with this guy. It is kind of, and you just seemingly, maybe it's because the whole loss of the husband, and then compounding with the loss of her father, and then the ordeal not the loss of her father, this is very recently, but it's just like what she went through as a kid, and all this stuff with Beetlejuice, and then the ghost thing. I guess over time she kind of did lose her edge a bit, and it's kind of like, damn, it's like, seeing your heroes kind of, I won't say get old, but it's just like, man, there's certain things that back in the day you would not have tolerated at all. You would have called out this kind of stuff immediately. I want to say old age makes you soft, but it does make you wiser. But I don't know, you would think it would have honed your skills, but maybe after you got married, you discovered love, and then you got a child, and the whole edgy goth teen thing kind of, I guess it would have to diminish over time, because there's certain things that we behaved like as teenagers that we eventually get over a bit. But there's certain things that you gotta help hold on to that kind of, or at least try to hone as you get older, so that way you won't fall for the same, fall for certain crap, or just that rebellious teenage attitude. On some degree, you gotta keep. So, so you won't be played like a sucker in a way. But some people are not that mindful about that stuff. Life happens, but it's just a shame. I'm kind of glad that Delia pointed that out to. That stuck in my mind. I'm glad Delia pointed it out to Lydia. It's like, yeah, you did kind of lose your edge a bit. Anyway, eventually, Astrid gets dropped off to Jeremy's house, to expected to like pass out candy and just hang out with him while Lydia goes back to get ready for want to rush the wedding and everything like that, because the more they stay here, the more Beetlejuice will try to connect with her as far away. She wants to just get far away from this as possible, especially the fact that she has a daughter now. Lord knows what he'll do. So, while Rory goes to get, I kind of skipped over this part. Lydia's kind of fed up, and she just decides to confront Beetlejuice to tell him to his face, because she knows how to, get to him and get back. But Rory thinks it's all kind of, hogwash. So she actually says his name 3 times and goes face to face with him. And of course, dressed up in like some kind of psychologist or psychiatrist, cliche garb, and terrorize, because he knows how to terrorize people. And of course, in Beetlejuice fashion, he literally sews up Lydia's mouth, because just like in the last film, he kind of like keep people to say his name. He kind of like throws like a metal thing on their face, or take out their teeth, or zip their lip. Like he does the whole thing. That's kind of like a thing. So he literally spills his guts and it's all flying everywhere. He makes Lydia fake pregnant and then pop out like a Beetlejuice baby, because this dude is like so into this woman, and he just, I don't know what it is about Lydia. This dude is just like so like latched onto, like, what kind of riz that this girl has on him where he just cannot let her go. And I wish it was like we could have done more with this thing where Lydia just like did try to go off on him, but it's only like a little like a thing here where it's like Lydia should have just like, leave me alone, leave like my family alone, I had enough with you, just stop. And of course it kind of confirms that he was trying to reach out to her, but she ends up saying like home 3 times in order to get out of there with Rory, and Rory, this thing is all like a hallucination kind of thing. But that's when she starts sealing everything up and trying to rush the wedding. So Jeremy reveals to Lydia that he's actually a ghost, that he fell from his treehouse and broke his neck, and he has the handbook of the recently deceased. So he said like, hey, I can take you to the afterlife, but the living is all a lie. He gets her to read the incantation to open up a doorway so they can walk through it, so that way she can finally reunite with her father in exchange of helping him regain his life. uh, Lydia speaks with one of the realtors who seems to be like the daughter of the Maitland's friend who was also a realtor. And she mentions that the house that she dropped off Lydia's daughter, uh, the house that Lydia dropped off her daughter at, was a house she's been trying to sell for a long time, but it was a murder house that the son went crazy and killed his parents, and then the cops tried to show up. He fell from the treehouse and broke his neck. And that's when Lydia kind of freaks out and starts, driving quickly back to the house, where she sees like the ghosts of the murdered parents. One with like the father with a buzzsaw to his face, and then the mom has like some kind of kitchen utensil stuck in her eye, that they just totally oblivious to the fact that they just been murdered by their own kid. And then she didn't make it in time as the door finally shuts. So that's when she rushes to get the aid of Beetlejuice, who makes a deal with her that, look, fine, I'll marry you. Just help me get my daughter out of the afterlife and away from that boy. And he actually gets her to sign this contract. So that way she can't say his name 3 times to send him back or anything like that. Like, trying to cover his bases from what happened last time. So she agrees. They end up going, breaking into the afterlife, because instead of drawing like a chalk door, he draws a chalk cartoon grenade, and then lighten a fuse, and it sets up like an explosion into his office, where they walk in. And meanwhile, it's just like, as they're passing down the corridors, Dolores is still looking for him. And it's one of those things where it's like, there's story beats you're kind of dropping here and there, and you're only picking them back up every once in a while. And this seems like that's one through line that I feels, a problem to me. Not a major problem, but still like a problem nonetheless, where it's like, this woman is like, wreaking havoc trying to find Beetlejuice, and you seem like it's just like wandering around, just like it doesn't intersect until the tail end. It's like, God, that's, I won't say lazy, but man, it's not connecting well, and it's like too many plots happening all at once. The whole little, the teenage boy situation, and then Dolores situation, and then the Beetlejuice trying to reconnect with Lydia, all that stuff is like, and then the whole thing with Headless Charles wandering around and afterlife trying to figure out where he's at and trying to get back to his wife and everything like that. That's a thing where it's like, you gotta just let that be. It's a whole thing. Not only in that, Delia, who purchased supposedly fangless asp snakes, because being like a yuppie, always a yuppie, forever a yuppie, thinking like, oh wow, Egyptians used this, back in the day, while trying to commune with the dearly departed. And she goes to her gravesite of her husband, trying to like, emotionally commune with her husband. But those things aren't, she got scammed, it weren't defanged. They bite her in the neck, she dies. And it's like, dang. It's like, I don't know, as a kid, like, I was kind of neutral on, I didn't hate nor like Delia in the first film when I was watched this as a kid. But over time, it's like, yeah, she was becoming like a major part of the whole entire film. She puts a lot of this stuff together, at least a major critical component to putting this film together. And now I'm enjoying the scene, this character again, and kind of like, not unceremoniously, but it's just like, man, you just killed her off so quickly. And it's like, I don't want nothing gory to happen to her, but man, it's kind of like, it sucks. It's like, she was like a cool family. She's family at this point, and it's like, dang, you just like. Now she's wandering around trying to find her husband. Now that she's in the afterlife, but she's stuck doing this whole bureaucratic mess. So, Astrid realized that Jeremy scammed her while he gets her to take a picture and fill out a form. They're pretty much trading places with him, so that way she can go stay here in the afterlife as a ghost while he gets to live. He's got to, get like a thing stamped for approval. And so she ends up noticing her father, who quickly goes to help her, and him, Lydia, and Astrid reunite, while Delia calls for Beetlejuice to help her find her husband. And so, as the mom, dad, and Astrid goes to find the boy to stop him from getting his thing stamped, and it turns out Beetlejuice tricks the guy and is like denied him, and he sends him to hell, quickly resolving that mess. And the father, having a nice moment with his family, and he mentions that he tried to reach out whenever he can, but he, couldn't interact physically. But he tells them he doesn't want to be the reason these two are antagonistic towards each other. He wants them to live life, be a united front, things of that sort. Love each other. You need each other more than ever. Like, don't let me be the reason you fall apart. Which is a nice moment. And he leads them out, which is out to the cemetery where they had the funeral for Charles. And meanwhile, Delia and Beetlejuice are in the church. Oh, and by the way, the dad died by piranha, so he must have fell in a river filled with piranha. So that's why he just like got a piranha stuck with him. Why do these animals that killed people are stuck to them? And it's like the snake shouldn't have been still with the guy who wrapped around the body and stuff. He should have just been like squeezed and indents, reflecting that he's been like probably, I guess you can't tell without it being a visual representation, but it's just like the animals shouldn't still be with you. If you got eaten by piranhas, the piranhas obviously wouldn't die along with the body. They would have just nibbled, moved on. And I don't know, you could have just saw like bites or something on him, and him being waterlogged. It should have been more than enough to represent. I don't know, it's just nitpicky, but obviously you can't do what I suggested without some kind of visual representation, I guess. It just seems weird. Anyway, so Lydia and Astrid goes to the church where they expect Rory to be, because he's inviting all these rich friends of theirs, and Beetlejuice shows up with Delia, and it's cool to see like all these people who on their phone filming everything, and Beetlejuice trying to get some privacy gets them to like point their phone at themselves and just suck their face inside their phone screens. It's kind of like a fun representation. Like, you're so glued to your phones, now you're literally glued to your phones. And they recreate the whole Deo, dance number thing, but with a different song that isn't as iconic as the Deo thing. But maybe for younger kids who've seen this film will probably grow up loving this particular song. Maybe, I'm not sure. But some argue that this little dance number went on longer than it need to be, because I think they mentioned like they played this entire song uh instead of maybe like a short snippet of it. Uh so uh Astrid finds the handbook again that uh the mom picked up from Jeremy's house, and she reads it trying to figure out the way to like get rid of Beetlejuice. She ends up summoning. Dolores shows up eventually, along with these cops that, pop up here and there, but they easily get frozen by Beetlejuice. They like knowing who Beetlejuice is. You don't have any type of tool in the afterlife needed to like nullify his powers, because he is just like so OP. Why don't you have this dude locked up somewhere? It's kind of wild to me. You know who this guy is. Maybe it's the point where I have him working at this kind of office just to keep him busy or something like that, and out of people's hairs. Maybe. But Beetlejuice used this cartoonist giant syringe filled with truth serum to get Roy to admit that he met Lydia at this type of retreat for grieving widows and widowers, and to hook up with like widows, but then met Lydia and figured like, oh, I can make money off of this woman, and that's why he rushed the wedding thing so he can like claim to a fortune. And then Beetlejuice hands Lydia a black and white boxing glove and just like, you know what to do, and she punches the hell out of this dude. But anyway, fast forward to Dolores showing up, then Enid or Astrid, I should say. I keep saying Enid from the Wednesday thing, but Astrid summons the sandworm to go after Beetlejuice. But unfortunately, unlike last time, he's more prepared, where he deflects the sandworm and it attacks Dolores and Rory at the same time. And it's like that you kind of wrapped up that thing, and it's like, aside from a few souls that Dolores destroyed, man, I was kind of waiting for this powerful witch woman going up against Beetlejuice, like pound for pound. It's kind of lackluster. I expect some kind of power struggle between these two, because like, Beetlejuice is kind of OP, but this is the one person he feels very afraid as he's rushing to get to the earthly plane just to avoid this woman. There's some level of fear behind that. So it's like, I don't know why he's so afraid if he can just manipulate situations just to get rid of her. It's kind of like, man, I was kind of expecting more of a power struggle between these two. It's kind of like, a little disappointing. So Asher points out that the contract null and void because he broke the rules. Don't know how she knows what's going on the contract, but she read the book, mentioned that it was illegal for somebody from the afterlife getting somebody from the living inside the afterworld or afterlife plane. So that somehow nullifies a contract. We don't know what's on that contract. It could have just completely bypassed that rules of the handbook somehow, but it did, and so it ruins the contract. And Lydia says his name, sends Beetlejuice back to the afterlife. Delia says her goodbyes to her daughter and granddaughter as the cops, walk her back to the afterlife, where she meets up with Charles. They board the soul train to heaven, and they're gone. So Lydia wraps up her show for good so she can live her life with her daughter. They go travel. They go to Transylvania to see Dracula's castle. That's where Asher meets a boy. Soon after, they end up getting married. Then she's in the labor room and then ends up having like a Beetlejuice baby. And it's all like a nightmare by Lydia, who still is, mentally linked to, or spiritually linked to Beetlejuice for some reason, because he's still trying to come after her. And it's like, and that's when the movie ends. This dude is like so obsessed with her, and it's like, what is it about? I mean, I can get why, because Lydia is one of those hot goth chicks that everybody is like was obsessed with growing up. But like, dude, it's like he was not letting that go. But that's where the movie ends. Look, I mentioned my biggest issues with this film, but overall, I still thoroughly enjoyed this. It was like a fun ride all the way through. The atmosphere, the characters, the acting, a lot of stuff, works so well that the details of like certain plots falling through, like the whole thing with Dolores and not fulfilling that all the way through, doesn't bother so much, but I can't help but think about it at the same time. Lots of the people have moments like that where it's like certain plots doesn't like fulfill all the way through for them. But all in all, it's done so well that I wouldn't be surprised there would be a third film. But it all depends on what Tim Burton wants to do. And by the way, he just recently got a star on the Walk of Fame, which is kind of wild to me that like this long he hasn't got a star on the Walk of Fame. It's kind of wild to me. But yeah, that was Beetlejuice. Fun film. I love it regardless. I don't know how well it works on the same level. Like, it just maybe like a few notches below the first film. It's still done well, but the first one, the plot is like not only easy to follow through, but it's like fulfilled all the way through. And it's not like a hodgepodge of different story beats that you kind of cobbled into one film. But yeah, I enjoyed this film. This is very, very fun. I'm looking forward to seeing this every Halloween moving forward. But anyway, my next, this one's kind of like an impromptu movie review, because the next two movie reviews that I want to cover before the Halloween theme review month gets started is the first two Fantastic Four films. So the first one will be later on this week. So look forward to that, because after Deadpool and Wolverine with the Chris Evans Human Torch cameo, I was like, I really want to revisit that film, because I think over time people like are less problematic about that film than back in the day, especially the first film, because I think comic book movies wasn't fully embraced as they were when like the MCU got started, and embracing the comic bookiness of the world of superheroes wasn't fully embraced. Looking back, I honestly can say that the first Fantastic Four film by Tim Story in 2005 knew what the assignment was, and was true to the world of the Fantastic Four than what we got since. At least not until we see what's going on with the more recent MCU Fantastic Four that we're getting in the next year or so. But anyway, I will see you guys a little bit later as I get back to more Black Myth Wukong. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a great day.